Peter Bieksangzuwala. On October 14, 2014, in Mizoram, India, 23-year-old midfielder Peter Bieksangzuwala took the field for Bethlehem Vangtlang FC in a local league match. The game was held at Lamwal Stadium before a small but vocal crowd. Persistent rain had left the grass slick, the surface soft in places, conditions that would soon turn deadly. Players moved cautiously as the second half wore on. With 10 minutes remaining, Peter broke through the defense and scored the equalizing goal that brought his team level. Cheers erupted from the stands as teammates sprinted toward him. He turned toward the corner flag to celebrate, a familiar move he had performed before. He ran, gathered speed, and attempted a backflip. The turf gave slightly under his plant foot. Rotation began unevenly. Mid-air, his body failed to clear the full arc. He landed headfirst, the impact snapping his neck. He collapsed instantly, motionless on the pitch. For a moment, teammates thought it was part of the celebration. Then shouts rose as they realized he wasn't moving. Players waved toward the sideline for medical staff. The referee stopped the play while the crowd fell silent. Trainers reached him within seconds and stabilized his head. A stretcher was brought out. He was carried from the field and loaded into an ambulance bound for Civil Hospital Azol. Doctors diagnosed a cervical spinal cord fracture and placed him on life support. His teammates remained outside the ward through the night. After 5 days in intensive care, Peter Bieksangzuwala died from complications of the injury. What began as a brief celebration became one of Indian football's most deadly moments. Andres Escobar. On July 2, 1994, 27-year-old defender Andres Escobar returned to Medellin, Colombia, after competing in the FIFA World Cup. 10 days earlier, his own goal against the United States had ended Colombia's campaign. Public anger at home was intense, fueled by media criticism and illegal betting losses. Escobar sought normalcy, telling reporters he wanted to show the real Colombia after the defeat. That evening, he met friends at the El Indio nightclub in the city's El Poblado district, an upscale area known for cartel influence and nightlife. Security in the district was light. Several off-duty guards worked for private patrons. Around 3 a.m., Escobar left the club and walked toward his white Toyota Gallant in the nearby parking lot. A small group of men stood near another car, arguing loudly. Witnesses later said one of them made comments about the World Cup match. Words were exchanged. Escobar attempted to defuse the confrontation. The man closest to him drew a .38 caliber pistol. 6 shots fired in rapid succession. Then Escobar collapsed beside his vehicle, struck multiple times in the chest. Friends shouted for help as the shooters fled in a gray Hyundai. Police arrived within minutes, their sirens reflecting off closed storefronts. Paramedics found a weak pulse and transported him to Las Americas Hospital, where surgeons attempted resuscitation. He was pronounced dead at 3:45 a.m. The shooter was later identified as Humberto Muñoz Castro, a bodyguard for cartel associates linked to illegal betting operations. He confessed to the killing and received a 43-year sentence, later reduced under parole reforms. FIFA officials called for stronger protection for players after major tournaments. In Medellin, more than 120,000 people attended his funeral, carrying white flowers through the streets. Murals of Escobar still cover city walls, alongside his final words to fans: "Life doesn't end here." Jose Antonio Reyes. On June 1, 2019, 35-year-old footballer Jose Antonio Reyes drove his Mercedes Brabus S 550 along the A376 highway between Seville and his hometown Utrera. A former Real Madrid and Arsenal winger, he was returning from a training session with Extremadura UD. High-performance vehicles were a familiar passion. The Mercedes had been heavily modified for speed. At 11:35 a.m., the car passed several vehicles on a straight stretch, accelerating beyond 180 kilometers per hour. The highway curved gently near the Alcalá de Guadaira exit, a section known for limited runoff and low guardrails. Seconds later, the vehicle lost traction. Tire marks scored the asphalt as the Mercedes drifted toward the shoulder. It struck the embankment at high speed. Metal tore against concrete, glass erupting across the lanes. The car rolled multiple times before landing on its side. Impact ruptured the fuel line. Flames spread beneath the chassis and ignited the surrounding grass. Passing motorists stopped and ran toward the wreck. Heat forced them back as explosions from the tires shook the air. Emergency calls flooded dispatch. Fire engines arrived within minutes and fought the blaze spreading through the ditch. When the flames were extinguished, the frame was unrecognizable, a blackened shell beside the highway barrier. Jose Antonio Reyes and his cousin Jonathan Reyes were pronounced dead at the scene. A third passenger, Juan Manuel Calderon, survived with severe burns after being pulled from the wreck by rescuers. Investigators confirmed the car had been traveling at 187 kilometers per hour before losing control. Toxicology tests showed no alcohol or drugs, only excessive speed. News of the crash spread within minutes across Spanish media. Football clubs across Europe held moments of silence in his honor. In the end, it wasn't the road or the weather that took his life. It was the speed he thought he could control. Emiliano Sala. On January 21, 2019, 28-year-old Argentine footballer Emiliano Sala boarded a Piper Malibu PA-46 at Nantes Atlantique Airport in France. He had just signed with Cardiff City after 3 seasons in League One with FC Nantes. The private flight was bound for Cardiff, Wales, crossing the English Channel at night. The aircraft was piloted by David Ibbotson, a part-time flyer without a commercial license. Weather bulletins that evening warned of low cloud, freezing rain, and gusting winds over the channel. Despite the alert, the plane departed at 7:15 p.m., cleared for altitude 5,000 feet. Controllers tracked the aircraft as it crossed the French coast near Guernsey. At 8:16 p.m., radar contact dropped suddenly. Seconds before, the pilot had radioed that he was descending while attempting to maintain altitude. Instruments showed rapid loss of height. Icing conditions were present. Rain hammered the fuselage. Then the plane entered a spiral descent and disappeared from radar. Search operations began within the hour. Helicopters and lifeboats scanned a 1,700 square kilometer area through the night. No signal was detected. Only small debris surfaced 2 days later off Alderney. The official search ended after 3 days due to weather and low visibility. Private efforts funded by Sala's family continued. Sonar teams located the wreck 67 meters below the surface. Inside the cabin, Sala's body was found strapped to his seat. The pilot's remains were never recovered. Investigators also determined the flight was unauthorized for paid transport, and the aircraft lacked de-icing certification. Across France, tributes filled stadiums where Salah had played. In Cardiff, supporters left candles, shirts, and scarves marked with his number 9, Marc-Vivien Foé. On June 26, 2003, 28-year-old midfielder Marc-Vivien Foé played for Cameroon against Colombia at Stade de Gerland in Lyon, France. It was the Confederations Cup semi-final, broadcast live to millions across Europe and Africa. Foé had competed in every match of the tournament, logging more than 300 minutes of play. Temperature on the pitch reached 35 degrees Celsius, and humidity remained high. Medical staff later noted several players showing signs of exhaustion during the first half. Foé declined substitution twice, insisting he could continue. The score stood 1-0 when the clock reached the 72nd minute. He slowed near the halfway line. Then his stride faltered. He pressed a hand to his chest and fell face forward onto the turf. No contact, no collision. He fell forward, the turf rising to meet him. The ball rolled past him, unnoticed. Players turned, confused. Referee Marcus Merck noticed immediately and stopped the play. Teammates shouted for help as medics rushed from the technical area. Foé lay motionless, eyes fixed open, sweat darkening his jersey. CPR began within 40 seconds of the collapse. Defibrillators were brought from the sideline. Chest compressions continued under the floodlights as 30,000 spectators watched in silence. He was carried from the field on a stretcher and transferred to the stadium's medical room, where resuscitation continued for 45 minutes. Marc-Vivien Foé was pronounced dead at 6:45 p.m. local time. His death led FIFA to expand cardiac screening, as stadiums worldwide honored him. Cameroon retiring his number 17 in eternal tribute.